personally think that Josh Sargent should be the number 9.
My biggest concern is that Mexico does tend to make those little mistakes defensively. But it's the inconsistencies.
Isn't this inconsistent, though?
He's going to be on the ground for the majority of the time. No, look back at highlights.
That's the Christian Pulisic treatment, though.
Same.
We're going to have to stop this. We're going to start arguing on this podcast, aren't we?
Hello. Happy New Year and welcome back to another episode of the Real Futbol Show. I am Lizzy Veterano, U.S. editor over at 90 Min, and I'm very, very happy to be back here with co-host Geno Ganello. How are you?
Good. How are you? How was your holiday? We haven't spoken in a while. It's been we haven't been on the podcast in last week, obviously with the holidays and whatnot. We were all off. So everything been good with you? I mean, the holiday season gave us a little bit of time to recuperate before the Liga MX season starts.
All great. Celebrated New Year's in Miami, fireworks in the water, all the stuff, all the great stuff.
All good things.
All good things. Just preparing for Liga MX and MLS, Leagues Cup.
All the good stuff. Everything. I mean, we got
going on.
The new year is starting with a bang. We've got a lot of, there's so much stuff coming, coming at us. Obviously, over in Europe, overseas, seasons have already started up again for us here.
Transfer windows are open.
Yep, transfer windows are open over here in America and in Mexico and in North America. We're getting ready for the seasons, so it's a good time. Like I said, we got a little bit of a break, a little bit of a breather, and after the World Cup, and now we're going to get right back into it.
We're doing everything. But before we get into our weekly recaps, doing and covering all North American soccer, we decided to do a Liga MX Explained episode where we get into the deep details of Liga MX, the format, the teams, the history, the players, everything you need to know. And we're going to be wrapping that up with Geno telling us his Liga MX favorite now and his future team. So to kick off, format and rules. It's not like your typical league. There is 2 tournaments per football year. So it starts with the Apertura in the fall, which kicks off the traditional football season in Europe, and then closes off with the Clausura. So those are 2 tournaments. The Clausura obviously is now kicking off on January 6th, and that will culminate in April before heading into playoffs.
So technically, just so we're clear here with all the people who are getting into Liga MX like myself, technically we're like kind of halfway through the season. Like the longer 2 tournament season, we're at the midway point. They've already had the first tournament. Why don't you catch us up on how did the first half go? So we know.
It went really well for my team, Club America. They ended the table in first and went into playoffs. A little bit chaotic, so we know that the final was obviously Toluca Pachuca, and Pachuca ended up winning. Congratulations to them. They had a couple Mexican national team figures, which were phenomenal. They have Luis Chavez, Kevin Alvarez. It was absolutely great to see. Not so much the favorites going into it, definitely an underdog style. I think given how the season went, Club America broke several records in their victories, their margins. They defeated Cruz Azul 7-0, which was a phenomenal game to watch, and pre-Geno watching Liga MX era. So that was fun.
It's new times now. New times, baby. They got a new fan. I'm ready. We're not losing 7-0 ever again.
Ever again. You should hope so. But so Pachuca ended up the champions of that tournament. And now we head into a brand new competition with absolutely nothing to leave behind. So
just to clarify, the only thing that comes from that last tournament is the winner will now play the winner of this next tournament at the conclusion of everything.
Exactly.
Before the next season starts or at the end of this season? Like, is it going to be like let's say the Community Shield where it's played like right before the Apertura starts next fall, or is it played right after the Clausura ends this
No,
season?
it's right before. So there's 1 month of June between the Clausura and following Apertura.
Gotcha.
So it'll likely be played then, and it'll be the champion of the Apertura and the champion of the Clausura facing off in a tournament or competition they call Campeón de Campeones. Now, beyond obviously getting a spot in that tournament, you also get a chance to go to the CONCACAF Champions League. So we can head into that obviously later, but those who qualified to the CONCACAF Champions League are the champions of the Apertura, the champions of the Clausura, and the 2 runner-ups from that.
Gotcha.
So
okay, but this season now the Clausura wiped clean slate.
Clean slate.
Nothing.
Getting into it.
How likely is it, or how often, I guess, does it happen that the team that wins the Apertura then also wins the Clausura? Is that a likely thing to happen?
Not as likely. Obviously, it was made more popular with Atlas, who broke a couple seasons ago, their 70-year winless streak, and then did so back-to-back. But unless you're a Club America, Chivas, it's not as likely to see in these shorter tournaments to see consistent champions. And I think that's the magic of Liga MX, where it truly is chaos. And these shorter tournaments give way for magical things to happen and for the underdogs to come out on top rather than these 34-week formats where you really have to stay consistent.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's interesting, right? Because that's what we're used to. We're used to a full, long season where maybe not in the MLS as much, but in Europe, where it's 30, in the Premier League, it's 38 rounds, right? Because you had to play each team twice, each 19 teams twice. And we're used to those long, like, grinding seasons that go from August all the way through, the middle of May. And here, this is much different than that. Yeah. But you would think still that, I honestly, the way I would think about it would be more, oh, well, if they're good in the fall, then they would also be good in the spring. But that doesn't seem to be the case most of the time.
You also have to remember there's a transfer window in between the 2 seasons. So, for example, we have Puebla right now who's sold half their team, and Santos Laguna who's seen a couple of their figures transferred over to other teams. So there's a lot of...
Is there a lot of overturn often in between the two, the Apertura and the Clausura?
Yeah, you definitely see a lot of changes. I think especially this year with the World Cup year, you saw Cesar Montes obviously go to La Liga. Memo Ochoa has since obviously departed to Serie A. And then a lot of inner Liga MX exchanges. So
you're basically not seeing, a lot of these teams aren't the same team that
Exactly.
Gotcha.
You see a lot of overturn,
interesting,
which obviously does not enable teams to consistently dominate throughout.
Yeah, which is a good thing. I think it's a good thing and a bad thing, right? Because it's good that there's parity across the league, but I think the bad thing is you don't get to, I guess, see your favorite players on your team for an extended period of time if you're a fan of one of the, I guess, lower level teams, or a team like Santos Laguna, who consistently
gets torn apart.
Yeah, consistently puts out those young players who then get picked up by the bigger teams.
Yeah, but it does. I mean, the shorter tournaments do allow for Santos to thrive.
Yeah.
For one of them, and then obviously the second turn out the other way. But so these tournaments are 17 weeks, so 17 regular season games.
Yep.
Before we head into the playoffs. Now, the top 4 teams from the regular season head directly into the quarterfinals, while teams 5 through 12 then have to play a knockout match to then qualify to the playoffs. So that knockout match, it's called repechaje, and then we head into liguilla, which is the Liga MX playoffs. And from
is it a knockout tournament? So is it the 5 through 12 go and the top 2 teams play, or what? How does that work out?
So it's very complicated, but I'll get into that before. So knockout, it's going to be to 1 game. So they're going to knock each other obviously out, and then every game beyond that is going to be 2 legs. So quarterfinals, semifinals, and then the finals is going to be away and then home. So
there's 8 teams that compete in that knockout stage. 4 of those teams advance to play, and then in the quarterfinals.
So then it becomes 8.
Makes sense. Words are important, and understanding. I know you said quarterfinals, but it didn't register in my head.
No,
Didn't
and
register.
I don't excel in math, unfortunately, which is why I headed into journalism. But so this year, for example, the Clausura final is set for May 25th and then May 28th. And obviously the team that gets to the final, the one who had a better regular season record gets that second leg. So they would have the advantage at home to conclude the season. And obviously it's done on aggregate. There are no away goals. So it becomes, doesn't count.
The away goal rule is not similar to now Champions League, where the away goal rule does not apply, which is
exactly. So it's definitely an interesting format. It does give way for that underdog to excel. As I said before, Club America dominated the entire 2022 Apertura and headed into Liguilla and chaos. They defeated Cruz Azul, but they lost. So they didn't get to the finals. They got to the semifinals, which was unfortunate because Henry Martin scored an amazing goal in extra time that was then ruled offside. It was unreal. But I don't want to get into it because I'll so yes, overall in the entire league, there are 18 teams. And technically there is promotion and relegation with the Mexican second division. Technically. So in 2020, the league decided to pause the promotion and relegation system until 2025 to promote financial stability. Basically, what they wanted was for new owners or anyone to invest in these Liga MX teams, but a lot of them were hesitant to say, okay, what if I invest and then they get relegated right away? So they temporarily paused that in order to put more money into the league to thrive. But because of pausing that, they decided to give and reward the second division with something else. So the team that ends in last place in a completely different table has to pay a fine, and the money from that fine goes directly into that second division and their teams.
So is this now, how do they determine, is this from each tournament? So if you finish in 18th in the Apertura, you have to pay money, and then if you finish in 18th in the Clausura, you have to pay money?
That would make sense, which is exactly why Liga MX decided not to do it like that.
Gotcha. Okay.
So for that table, they take your average points per game from the past 3 years.
Okay. Yep. Yeah. You were explaining this to me before the show, and I was very confused. Now it's making a little bit more sense.
And so if after those 3 years, your average of points per game is the lowest in the entire table, you have to pay a fine. If you pay that fine, your average resets completely. However, you still cannot manage the following year to end in last, because if you do so, you have to pay that fine again. Now, for example, let's say on average,
this is confusing. I'm very confused.
It
very
truly
confused.
is, and I'm so sorry. So let's say Atlas, their average points per game of the last 3 years is 1.
Yes. Over the last 3 years is 1. Yep.
Juarez, if they paid their fine before and their record is reset, has to manage more than 1 point per game in the following calendar year. If they don't manage to do
So out of the 34 games, they have to get 34 more points.
If Atlas gets 30 points overall in 1 year, they have to manage 31 points.
Yes. Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Exactly. And then Atlas would have to pay that fine. And then again, the process.
I feel like that's hard. I feel like that's very
it's complicated.
No, but I feel like that's just looking at the table from the Apertura, I feel like that's like one of the teams finished with 9 points.
Yes.
So if you got to do that's hard. I feel like if you're in its last play, that's difficult.
But the whole point is to obviously feel a consequence for ending up in last place when there's promotion and relegation.
For sure. And I think I don't think it's a terrible idea. I think maybe some of the rules could be ironed out, but I think especially with COVID and everything and how it has impacted these teams, and we know that there's no Middle Eastern money, no oil money in these Mexican teams as there is in Premier League, right? So
Right.
the Premier Leagues, a lot of these other teams in Europe and the bigger leagues have a lot of money backing them. So maybe it doesn't financially hurt those teams as much.
Right.
But teams like these Liga MX teams are going to get hurt by the lack of revenue and the lack of being able to have fans and lack of games and stuff like that. So
when you're looking, and this is stepping away from the journalistic giving straightforward rules and going to speculation, when you're trying to attract investors into Liga MX, you have MLS, who's a giant competitor, miles away, that doesn't have a relegation and promotion system, which would say to them, my money is safe going to these teams who will continue in this league constantly. So in a sense, I think they were just trying to protect their league and incite money to come in. But there's also been speculation that Liga MX will open up 2 more spaces in Liga MX to welcome the top 2 from the second division team and make it into a 20. So it's
gotcha.
But
has it ever been 20 before? Has it always been 18?
I believe
as far as you can remember. Yeah. Okay. So that they would
from
be
what I remember before. Yeah.
Gotcha.
Maybe in like the 50s, it might have been different.
Interesting. Also, so I wonder. So that would mean that there would be 38 games in the 19 games in the Clausura and the Apertura.
Yes. Also, this shorter tournament has been. It was a change, obviously, from the original Liga MX format, but.
Okay. Which I like it. It's nice. Yeah, it's a change of pace. It's different than everything else. It gives you a reason to watch. You know, I think sometimes with these leagues, it's like, yes, you get different styles of play, different players and whatnot, but they're all basically the same, basically on the same format. MLS, of course, is as playoffs, but Liga MX is I feel like it's different. There's a lot of math. There's a lot of math going on here. We're not a math pod. Not a math pod. Yes, that's how I feel right now. My brain is fried. I'm not sure we're going to be able to talk about anything else.
Just to confirm, I also just checked, and about 15 years ago, there was 20 teams, but there has never been more than 20 teams.
Okay.
So I just want to make the correction on my end there. And now we head into the Giants.
The Giants, which I learned about today. Honestly, we talked about this earlier before the show.
I was very surprised.
But I actually learned about this before the podcast.
I know, and I was so proud of him. Truly.
I almost got them all right.
What?
I almost got them all right.
Yeah, you did. No, but more credit because the other one that you mentioned has been growing.
Yeah. Well,
so, not a wild guess. There are 4 current Giants in the league, considered Giants. Obviously, this isn't official, but because of their dominance in previous years and decades, it just has been this way for quite a little bit. And those are Club América, Chivas de Guadalajara, Cruz Azul, and Pumas. So to kick off, obviously, Club América, they play in Mexico City at the Estadio Azteca, which we all know and love, and you should 100% visit if you haven't had the chance.
I have not.
They dominated in the 80s. That was their strongest era and have since won 13 league titles, the most in the league. So very exciting. And if we're talking about most known figures, obviously we have Guillermo Ochoa, Cuauhtémoc Blanco, Henry Martin currently, Cendejas currently, Raúl Jiménez also played there before heading off to Europe. So some of the greatest figures do come from Club América. Not bragging or anything.
It's okay. It's okay. I spoiler, I will not be rooting for Club America.
Shocking decision that he didn't want to follow in my footsteps, but
I just didn't want to root for a team that is always the best. I don't want to.
Yeah, it must get tiring having fun all the time.
I don't know. I need pain. Like I need.
You need pain. As an Everton fan, you would.
It's 100%. It's the part of sports. You need pain in sports. You can't just win everything. That's not how it works.
You absolutely can't. And talking about people who know about losing, Chivas de Guadalajara, a rival of Club América.
Interesting you say that after they made it to the final of the biggest tournament in the history of sports.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that for
Copa
any
por
specific
Mexico,
reason.
the
Yeah, it
friendly
is
tournament.
no, it's a very big tournament. Trust me, I've read up a
Huge,
lot on it.
huge. Bigger than the Carabao Cup. Love. They are known kind of as Mexico's team. They have a rule that they're only allowed to play with Mexican players. So not technically, they don't have foreigners, which all the rules that we'll get into about rosters and all that do not apply technically to Chivas de Guadalajara. Only play with Mexicans, which can make things complicated, but that's what they do. That's what their heritage is, and that's why they're dotted Mexican.
Very interesting. Very different.
Yeah, kind of antiquated, but
Limits you to,
it
a
does.
certain group of players, but I mean, hey, they're making it work. So
Yeah. They have 12 league titles overall, and they truly dominated in the 50s and 60s. So I believe it was 1952 to 1966 was their strongest era. And obviously they have since won a couple titles, but that was when it was just back to back, truly. And some of their figures obviously are Mexican national teams, Alexis Vega, they had Chicharito in the past. So quite a few figures, obviously all Mexican because they have to. Then you have Cruz Azul. Cruz Azul, who plays in Mexico City. They have 9 league titles.
Yeah, they do.
Dominated in the 70s. They have a phrase for Cruz Azul.
It's a beautiful phrase.
Beautiful phrase, which means to Cruz Azulearla, which means to almost get there and then somehow mess it up. So while they do have 9 league titles, they lead the league with the runner-up position. They've been runner-ups 11 times. They've managed to really, really mess it up.
So I have a question now that we're talking about league titles. How would you now in the current format describe a league title? Is that winning a
short tournament?
Short tournament. Okay, gotcha.
Yeah. So if you win the Apertura, you're winning a league
You're
title.
a league title. Okay, gotcha.
And then if you win the Campeón de Campeones, that's a completely separate trophy then created following the short tournament format. So it would still be then league titles. Because though in a shorter format, you're still technically doing the same thing that you were in the longer format. So it counts. It remained the same. And last but not least, we have Pumas, who plays also in Mexico City, which says, I guess, a lot about the demographic of the country. But so it is controversial whether they're considered a giant in today's age, but they did become the first back-to-back champions of this shorter tournament format, which is great. They are linked to the UNAM, which is a university in Mexico, one of the largest. And
why are they linked to them? Like, how does that?
It's like the university's team. So
how does it? This is so weird.
Yeah, it's a professional team, but it's owned by the university.
It's like Duke University having like a football team in the NFL.
Yes.
That's so weird.
It very.
How big is this? Do you know how big the university is?
What?
Do you know how big the university is? Like how many students are there? Like, is it like
I don't
a
know, but I do want to say
university?
It is one of the country's pride and joys because it's also a public university.
Interesting.
Yeah.
It's like,
actually going to check how many students they have.
There's literally Alabama being in the NFL. Like
total enrollment as of 2014. I don't know how reliable, but total enrollment was 342,500.
What?
Though not on one campus.
Yeah, naturally, but do they have any other like big universities in Mexico, or is this like the main one that everybody goes to?
Well, there's a lot of universities, but there's a lot of private universities as well. So it becomes.
This is like one of the only public ones.
Like one of the best. I want to say kind of like University of Michigan, where you're but it's
but even University of Michigan, I think only has 60,000 kids.
No. But I mean, like it's like an esteemed
Yeah, of course.
public
Yeah.
school. You know what I mean?
Yes, we're getting off track here. I just
Yeah, I'm
really am
sorry. There's
very
just a lot,
amazed
yeah.
by the fact that there's 305. And again, I mean,
But I don't know how accurate that is. It's truly a number that just popped up. Then look into it. I can go.
it's got to be somewhat close, right?
I mean, it is a big school.
That's pretty crazy. So they own the football team.
Yeah, so it's linked to that university. So it's Pumas UNAM.
Gotcha.
The Pumas of that university. So it's fun. And it's great. So those are the 4 giants, but we obviously have more teams dominating now in the league. You have Rayados de Monterrey. You also have Tigres. A lot of up-and-coming teams that didn't necessarily dominate in previous decades to be considered a giant or a historical giant.
And of course, I would imagine the change in format has allowed for more teams to become more prominent in the league.
Correct, yes. Pumas, for example, this last tournament did not even qualify to playoffs. So it was a highly contested season, controversial, definitely a downward spiral from their end. But the magic of the shorter tournament is that they head into 2023 with the possibility of a title, as they all do. Some more than others.
Some more than others.
Some more than others. And yes, we will see Dani Alves back this season as well.
There we go.
His contract really was for the entire year, so there wasn't contractual speculation.
Yeah.
The rumors did pop up after they ended the season so terribly that he would give up. It does
sound like he's sticking around, like not even just past this year, maybe even for another year after that too. It sounded like he was pretty, he's pretty comfortable where he is, and it's been a tough time for Pumas, I'm sure, as they've finished 11th in the Clausura the season before and 16th in Apertura. So it's not great.
It's been a tough time. Yeah.
Not great.
Not great.
But
definitely not great. And then to close off this fun little section before we get to Geno's wonderful questions.
Geno's questions.
I wanted to point out some very interesting Liga MX rules. Now that last episode, for those who remember, brought up some wacky rules that were not well explained at the moment. So roster rules, at the moment, Mexican teams can only register 10 the wording is important. So it's players not formed in Mexico. So technically they can't say foreigners because there are players who, after living in Mexico for 5 years, will obtain that Mexican passport and then be considered Mexican completely.
Gotcha.
So that does not qualify into this rule. This rule pertains to those who were not formed in a Liga MX academy. So Santi Jimenez, for example, is a great example of this because he was born in Argentina, moved to Mexico. He became a naturalized Mexican citizen at, I believe it was the age of 3 or 4, but he was completely formed in Cruz Azul's academy.
Yeah.
So he wouldn't be considered one of these 10 players for the team because he was formed completely. Rogelio Funes Mori, for example, from Rayados de Monterrey, is a Mexican citizen, and we know because he plays with the Mexican national team, but would be listed under this rule with his team because he wasn't formed in an academy.
Yes.
So it truly became...
It's similar to the homegrown players type of thing where it's like, for example, like in England, where it's like, you can be Scottish, but homegrown in an Everton academy, for example, or whatever. Yeah.
So this rule was peculiar just because they truly couldn't say...
you couldn't say like,
label it as foreigners because legally and under the Mexican constitution, those who receive a Mexican passport are Mexican
for sure,
by law. So that it became a whole thing. But on the field, so on the roster, it's no more than 10. And then on the field, it can't be more than 8 at a particular time.
Yes.
So,
which is better than what we thought it was.
These rules are changing though.
Yeah.
In 2019, they changed the rule and was actually a proposition by Tata Martino at the time to lower that number from 8 or 9 at that time to 7.
Yeah.
And this rule basically works to promote the development of Mexican soccer so that you have more local players on the field, obviously, instead of having just 11 foreigners, for example. But yeah,
makes sense. I mean, that's good. We do have a question here from a listener. There's a question on who the best Mexican team to win the CONCACAF Champions League on paper is.
Oh, that's a good question. I mean, I'll say Club America. Just because
Is there a specific team that was like a Club America team though that stands out above the rest? Is there like a squad that was just phenomenal? Like
there was, but it wasn't the same one to win the CONCACAF Champions.
Oh. Well, there you go.
I would actually like to defer this question to later.
Okay.
Because I will answer it, but I have to track back in my memory because there's just so many.
We'll defer.
Has dominated for so long in the CONCACAF Champions League until just this year that Seattle won. So just too much to choose from, you know?
All right. Fair enough.
But now we head into Geno's questions.
Yes, I have a bunch of questions. So these are questions from. Now, I watched a bunch of the games. I did watch a bunch of the games. I did not watch I watched a bunch of games in the front end of the tournament, did not watch a bunch of games in the back end of the tournament.
Mm-hmm.
So these are a lot of my comments from, I guess, the first half of games.
Okay.
Similarly, at least since we talked, I think these were all from round 3 of this.
Okay.
I would like to say before anything that I feel bad for Carlos Acevedo. Because
yes, we all do.
I watching this Chivas Santos Laguna game, which is the first game that I was watching of round 3. He literally was just like a pinball with the ball bouncing off of him, trying to save things. So I feel bad for him. And on that same note, Chivas won that game 4-0. But there was a player, I mean, obviously they scored 2 goals, and then the third goal came from a player whose last name is Ormeño, I think it is.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
He was given a lot of hugs.
Yes.
At the end of this, after his first goal, he scored a second goal too. But specifically after the first goal against Santos Laguna, like he was given it just seemed like everybody's very happy for him.
Yes.
Which was nice and great.
The team is. Yes.
It seemed like he had scored his first goal ever. That's how happy it was. Like one of those things where like somebody hadn't scored in like 200 appearances, and everybody's really happy. But is that the case? Is there a reason for that?
There is actually. So, as explained before, obviously Chivas have this Mexicans only policy. Mm-hmm. And though technically Ormeño is Mexican because he has a Mexican passport, he plays and is registered under the Peruvian national team.
Oh.
Because he's a dual nat player.
Very interesting.
So, though he technically there was a lot of controversy surrounding his arrival to the team because some questioned his true Mexicanism, I guess.
Yeah.
So that became a huge talking point. And then beyond that, on the field, he really wasn't delivering. So you had the controversy.
So you had one end of, people being like, well, he's not really Mexican. And then the other end of people being like, and he doesn't score goals. So what is he doing here? Yeah.
Yeah. He really wasn't well received among the fan base and the supporter groups. So
a wide variety of the Chivas supporters group support the only Mexicans.
Yeah, it becomes a topic of patriotism, really. Gotcha, it's kind of like supporting the Mexican national team. They linked that up with Chivas, and it became, again, Mexico's team.
Gotcha.
So that's where they connected with. And because of their policy, for example, while you have, people from Torreon rooting for Santos Laguna, you really have people from all ends of Mexico really rooting for Chivas because of that policy. Yes. So it was their way to attract support from the country. But yeah, his arrival became quite controversial, kind of not well.
Well, I feel good for him now. Good for him.
Yeah, so
He
I'm
scored
sure
2 goals in that game. A meaningless
one
game.
of his teammates was like, "We support you. We're very happy
Yeah.
for you. You're scoring," type of thing.
Okay, well that's good. I'm happy to hear that. Well, good for him. Um, and that's a good explanation. I appreciate that. We're gonna move on to the next game because we'll just go through the games and then I have some Liga MX related questions.
Right.
But the next game I watched was Pumas versus Necaxa.
Love Necaxa. Okay.
So we'll start from the very beginning of the game.
Okay.
I did like the fact that Pumas coach was hugging all his players before the game. I thought that was very nice. I like that. I like that. But also what happened in the beginning of the game, what I thought was the national anthem was not the national anthem.
Okay.
Pumas was singing an anthem by themselves. I thought it was the national anthem at first, and then I saw them by themselves. What was that? Like, what is that?
So that's the university's anthem.
Gotcha. So the university has an anthem. So it's a university fight song, essentially.
Yes, basically.
Gotcha.
So they have an anthem overall, and then at the end, it ends with this like small cheer.
Okay.
And that cheer is obviously adapted in like smaller versions and sung independently throughout the game and beyond that. But yes, what you heard was the fight song or anthem of the team university.
Gotcha. So now I have a question. Do a lot of like they have a student discount maybe to go to Pumas games? Like they got it, right?
No.
Do you think they would? Like, come on.
No.
I would. I don't know. I feel like Pumas can make a lot of money on the student discounts.
All right. No, I'll ask them next time I'm reporting.
Please let them know about this. If anybody from the Pumas front office is listening to me, student discounts seems like an option. Seems like it should be something.
Way to go. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, you got to do something for the students. I mean, get them in the stands.
I mean, they're so close to campus. They could just go and watch.
Yeah, but like, I don't know if I could pay $15 for a ticket.
No, I'll fight for that.
Yeah.
No.
Come on. The student discounts all over the place.
Yeah, no, we love that.
Help the kids.
Help the kids.
And then the other thing from that game was I wrote this down as this is exactly the words that I put here. Pumas almost committed the dumbest play in history to lose this game, heading the ball back to the goalie and off the post. Somehow, Necaxa did not score. I don't know how. The goalie was not paying attention, and the center back just headed the ball back in his direction. And if it was anywhere further to the left, I think it was, it would have been the back of the net as an own goal. It was like the 93rd minute, and I was like losing my mind. So that was a note that I felt was important. And then the next game, I actually kind of really enjoyed this one from what I remember. Okay. The Atlas Mazatlan game. I enjoyed that, except for the first about 5 to 10 minutes.
Okay.
Watching Atlas play out of the back the first 5 to 10 minutes made me want to poke my eyes out. So they were really good in transition, but once they got on the defensive side of things, they were really, really bad for the first 10 minutes. But and Mazatlan was playing a press, so that played into it a little bit, but still it was hard to watch. But on the attack, they had a bunch of really good attempts. Atlas, number 33. Quinones is one of my favorite players in the Liga MX already because he seemed to be involved in everything. He was a lot of fun to watch. He was a lot of fun on the ball. He scored a ridiculous goal in this game. Like, it just is like unreal goal. I just put what a stunner from 33 because I didn't know his name at the time. So that's what I have here. But I did like what he was doing. So he'll be a player that I will watch out for because I really liked him. And then my other notes from, I watched some of the highlights, of course, from the other games. Toluca's goalkeeper seems very good. Is that a fair?
Yeah.
Because he seemed to save everything. So.
He became a definite talking point throughout the Liga last season. Yeah. He's great. A little pretentious, which is annoying. But
yeah, I mean, I guess I can get that.
Opulent personality, but
good gamer, good player.
Yeah.
So
no, good player.
Good player. Gotcha. Good player. And then I love the atmosphere. The atmosphere at the Cruz Azul Club America game was phenomenal. Thought that was a lot of fun. Even just from the highlights, you can tell how fun it was from there. And then I wrote down Antuna and Rotondi up top for Cruz Azul. That link up is fire, which is going to make me really disappointed if Antuna now goes to Greece.
Yes.
So
for those
please stay.
There's an offer from a Greek team over, obviously, at the Greek Super League for Uriel Antuna. It starts with a P. I really truly don't know how to pronounce it. But we have it at.
It's Pantiakos or something like that.
Yeah, I don't know how to pronounce it, and I really don't want to butcher. But they have since reportedly put in a second offer for him, so it would definitely be interesting to see.
Ruining everything.
Everything. They ruin everything. Everything, for sure.
Well, all right. That's my notes from the games. I did have some more questions. So it was Cruz Azul. Cruz Azul did end up winning this friendly tournament.
They did.
Were they expected? Were they like one of the main contenders to win this tournament?
Not really. I don't think there were any contenders. Truly,
Gotcha.
I think
it's just kind of like a toss-up every time.
Just because it was a friendly tournament, and then you had a lot of people missing because of the World Cup, and they were on vacation, and so no roster. Like, there was rarely a starting 11 that would then be applied to Liga MX regular season. So,
and then there was a game between Mazatlan and Santos Laguna, which had no fans in it.
Yeah. So the thing is, it wasn't played in everyone's home stadiums.
Gotcha.
So I believe that game was played.
But like, there wasn't a single fan there. Like, you'd think thered be some fans.
Not really.
Really? That's kind of surprising.
Being a friendly and being away, I believe it was in Guadalajara, which is far away from like where both of them play. So it made no sense for away teams. Everyone's on vacation. But yeah.
All right, let's do some quick fire ones here about the actual league that I have.
Wait, before we get into that, I do want to point out, because this is it relates. This upcoming season, you will see absolutely no fans at Querétaro home games and Atlas home games. No fans are allowed. So there is an incident between the fan bases on March 5th, 2022. It was, I believe, I'm sorry. There was only Querétaro doesn't have home fans because it was at their stadium. Atlas has home fans. But on March 5th, 2022, there's an incident between the fan bases that ended up in some pretty gory images. And
was this like massive brawl in the stands where people like were climbing out of the stands? And I know exactly what you're talking about. Okay, that makes sense.
So, and there was a huge controversy with the amount of security that Querétaro provided. And that entire situation was truly mishandled by the team and the security that they employed. So they banned fans from that stadium for 3 years. So you will see absolutely no fans there. But kind of going ahead of that question, which I'm sure we would tackle in another podcast episode.
Yes, we would.
That they banned fans for 3 years. So it still applies. And then 3 years would technically mean 6 tournaments because it.
Yeah. So it would be 3 calendar years essentially.
Yeah, 3 calendar years, 6 tournaments. Yeah. But yeah, so it applies for next season, which
interesting.
That's why no fans on that. But no,
that would have been a question I definitely would have had. So.
But the previous Mazatlan game had nothing to do with that.
Yeah. Gotcha. All right. So the quick fire questions: is there a team that every single fan base hates in Liga MX?
Yes, Club America, and the informal slogan is "Ódiame más," hate me more. Yes.
Okay. Cool. Ódiame más. Yes. I will hate you more. Okay. How bad are defenses in the league? I wrote this because I was watching the highlights. Just feels that the defenses are letting up a lot of wide open shots, some like weird deflections. Like goalkeepers are letting in goals that are like from like the end line. Like, what's the deal there? Is this just friendly stuff, or is this something I should expect to see? Okay.
No, it's definitely friendly stuff. You have teams adjusting, teams missing.
I didn't know if that played into the chaos of the Liga MX.
There definitely is chaos, and I think defensively it will play into it. But
at some point, as every league does, but it felt like more than normal in this tournament.
Exactly, but it's not a predominant characteristic of Liga MX to have this sort of situation. Like, for example, Rayados, they play well. So yeah, it's
okay.
A whole thing. But yeah.
Best fan base in Liga MX.
Here's the thing. There's a lot, but I would say at the moment, because of the passion and involvement and constant participation,
Mm-hmm.
I would say Tigres. I mean,
Okay.
that stadium is filled almost absolutely every game to the tip top. Their
Love that.
chants are phenomenal. Their involvement with the team is constantly great, and from what I've heard, there's low amounts of negative aspects to the fan bases. So not as problematic as some of the
It's
others.
a shame I don't like their team, like the players.
Yeah, I know you truly hate them.
I don't like them. But prayers up for Gignac. I saw he got injured.
Oh,
as
he's
well.
fine now. Yeah,
But he looks like he's fine, so that's good because it looked like a weird situation. He got hit in the back of the head with the ball and then started vomiting on the sidelines. It was definitely a weird one. Best rivalry in Liga MX.
So I think from history you would have Chivas America. They historically are just considered the biggest rivalry, but you also have Tigres versus Monterrey because they play in the same area. It's called when they meet up, it's called the Clásico Regio, which gets extremely intense, like very intense.
We like that. We like intense. 2 point.
Yeah. So that's definitely a game to look forward to. And then if you have players just like switching teams from one to another, the fans are just not happy. They're not welcome. We love a rivalry though.
We do. We love rivalries. We love rivalries. Again, 2 point. We want to make sure that everybody is, keeping.
We love a safe rivalry. But that one truly is.
Yes.
Not problematic.
And then the final question, the game this season that's most like Liverpool City. Obviously, like a lot of fans mark Liverpool City on their calendar because that's supposed to be the best game of the season at this current moment. That's like the one everybody looks forward to. Obviously, things change. And this season, Arsenal playing Newcastle today, I think it is a top game. Like that's a game everybody's looking forward to, or Arsenal versus City is going to be a very big game. So, is there a game like that in the Liga MX where we should mark our calendars and say March 25th, these two teams are playing and you should make sure you watch it?
So there are games that you should mark your calendars for, and
But is there? Of course, there's going to be some that are like really
but
big
in
ones.
this sense, not particularly. I think the magic of Liga MX is the fact that there's so much chaos and who will be able to dominate next season. Okay. So there's not that predominant money-driven team that just excels completely. And we saw it with Club America as well. Like they are considered one of the teams with the most money. Obviously, they are owned by Televisa, so there's constant fluctuation of cash there. But even so, you have them playing in Liguilla and losing and not even reaching the final. So there are fun games. Obviously, we did games to watch out for, which comes in the Clásico Regio, Chivas America, which is always fun to watch. But yeah, because of the short tournaments and because of Liga MX's format, it really gives way for any team to dominate that particular cycle.
Which is a good thing. That's a good thing. But give us a couple games to watch out for this season that aren't your typical couple games. Like, is there like maybe like a mid-table game that's like really like going to be a good
honestly, I want to watch Toluca face Pachuca again. Okay. I think
a rematch.
I think that Chambris, the head coach of Toluca, really did a good job during the Liguilla to lead his team to glory. And it's not necessarily because he has a star-studded team. I just genuinely see he's a great coach. And it doesn't look like Pachuca's team was taken completely apart. From what I've heard, the deal between Luis Chavez and Bayer Leverkusen has since it just fell through. So it looks like he's going to be staying on with Pachuca. So that's the Tuzos are going to be exciting to watch. And just that rematch of the final, which was so fun to watch.
Yeah.
I think it's going to be great. And then obviously the classics.
Also, I like Toluca. Toluca's, say that again?
Santos Laguna versus America. Okay. I have a soft spot for Santos Laguna. So watching them against Club America is always fun.
Yeah, no, I like Toluca. I like the way they play. They're a fun team to watch too. I don't know. There's some fun teams that are out there. I think I think for the time being, right now,
He's gonna reveal. You're gonna reveal. Okay.
I think I have to reveal. I think we'll reveal it right now, right? Because we're coming to
Amazing.
the end of this. I think at the time being, right now, I am going to be a Cruz Azul fan.
Love that for
That is
you.
where I'm going to be right now. I think I need the season to confirm, because at least the Clausura to confirm, because I need to watch more of these teams in a more competitive setting and understand
Love
some of their
that.
styles of play. But at this current time, I am going to be a Cruz Azul fan, and I really can't foresee myself not being that. There's just an attachment for me. I mean, they're mid-table. They're not a team that's been, their team has been kind of struggling a little bit more than they have in past times. They have the same amount of league titles as Everton does, as everybody knows.
Same
My favorite
colors,
team,
too.
who are currently getting their butts whooped after I turn the game off. So that's good that I didn't watch that. But yeah, I think they have same there. Obviously, Ramiro Funes Mori used to play for Everton. Now he plays for Cruz Azul. There's a lot of connections. I like the uniforms. I like the team.
One and
I
the
don't
same.
like the fact that Uriel Antuna is going to be leaving so quickly into my fandom.
Potentially staying.
But at the same time, I've now won more trophies as a Cruz Azul fan in the 5 minutes that I've been a Cruz Azul fan than I have in the 10, 15 years that I've been an Everton fan. So hope is rising. We're on the
Okay.
rise. But I am a Cruz Azul fan. La Maquina all the way. We are tournament champions of the biggest tournament in the world. In the world. I would like that on record. So it's going to be, honestly, it's going to be a lot of fun. I'm very much looking forward to it. Friday is going to be a lot of fun. I'm excited to get into a new league. Excited to watch different things develop here. So it's going to be good.
It's going to be so much fun. We have obviously Liga MX and then CONCACAF Champions League. And then, just going back to that question really quickly. Obviously, we know Monterrey and Pachuca have won in the past. But in terms of squad, I'm not necessarily remembering the players. But I think from past experience, Club America was always the most fun team to watch in that tournament. So hopefully they win the Clausura and they qualify to 2023. But a lot of North American football this year. We have also the newly formatted Leagues Cup coming in the summer. Very excited. So we'll see that. We'll see CONCACAF Champions League, MLS, Liga MX. This was so much fun. I love.
There's just so much going on. There's so literally so much going on, and it's just, excuse me. It's just it just feels like there's just going to be so much football here in the North America, and we're going to cover it. We're going to try to do our best to get you everything, reactions to everything, opinions on everything, because it's going to be a lot of fun. I mean, from now all the way through probably next November. Well, really, by the time next November rolls around, Liga MX will be in the Apertura. So for the entire year, 2023, we are going to cover all the soccer, and it's going to be fun.
And I'm so excited you're getting into Liga MX.
Yes.
I should warn you and share with you that Liga MX Twitter is hilarious.
Okay,
so
cool.
I'm excited for you to get into that.
Yeah, I mean, if you're a Liga MX fan watching this, follow me. Let me know what I should be doing or what I should be watching. Hit me up if you have anything that I missed. Keep it on our radar.
Keep it on the radar.
Questions.
Of course.
If you hate me now because I'm a Cruz Azul fan, let me know.
Okay, that's starting strong.
I might start a Cruz Azul fan club on Long Island.
Love
there's
that.
Got to be a bunch of us,
be
right?
like one.
It'll be me.
Love that. So next week we will be covering obviously all Liga MX action this weekend, and we'll also head into transfer season at MLS, U.S. men's national team, U.S. women's national team news, and the January camps, obviously, and also the Liga MX transfer news, because there's still things
January
going
camps
on.
too. Oh my God.
So lots to discover and cover next episode. But for now, thank you so much for listening. And if you liked it, like and subscribe to YouTube and the rest. Thanks so much.
Hello. Love you guys.
Bye.